so much for joining us. We're excited you're here. As you can see, we have a very special guest. So we're going to jump right into it, you guys, because we got lots of incredible information for you. And it would be helpful if I clicked share my screen, right? So while I'm getting this figured out, you can just chat in, let us know where you're coming in from and how you're doing. So, yes. All right, there we go. And we're cooking with oil now. All right, for those of you who don't know, my name is Melanie D. Nelson. I'm the director of TLS, been in the health industry since 2000. And many of you obviously know my partner and associate, Suzanne. She's registered dietitian since 2003 and certified diabetes educator since 2005, a weekly guest on a radio show on nutrition since 2008, and she's been one of our TLS certified trainers since 2012. You know her, you love her. She's the queen of metaphors. And we have with us our very esteemed guest. We're so excited to have her, the Vice President of Product Development for our company. And she's recognized as a dedicated physician and speaker on both conventional and naturopathic therapies. As a board certified naturopathic physician, she brings a unique perspective and expertise to the diagnosis and treatment of chronic disease. She strives to educate on the role of integrative medicine, nutrigenomics, and lifestyle approaches to assist practitioners and their patients in achieving optimal health. She's a licensed naturopathic physician for over 20 years. She's the NEI Educated Institute Clinical Director and international speaker. She's been lifestyle medicine consulting since 2014. Welcome to our week 10, Dr. Deidre Mason.
Well, I appreciate so much the invitation to be a part of what we're really doing here with our challenge and just helping people kind of find their space in health and kind of doing it by their design. I love what you guys have created, Melanie and Suzanne.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about a lot of stuff here. So we just always need to put this up and just share that these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. They're not, our products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease. That it's always a good idea to consult your healthcare provider before starting any program. You can 1 to 2 pounds per week, and we may be sharing come from owners like myself. A big shout out to all of our teams, you guys, that are participating in our TLS Team Tone Up Challenge, and of course our weekly leaderboard. We're doing awesome. Here, look at, we made it over the 2,000.
Over 2,000.
Yes, very exciting. So 2,046 pounds lost since we've started. So we're actually just starting 10. So in 9 weeks, this is what those who are reporting, this is the grand total. And then 1,774 inches. And our leaderboard this week is Fabulously Fit, Castaway, A Journey to Lose, and Team Lokaihi. And we're excited for all our teams who have been reporting weekly and been really, really consistent with that. So thank you for that, because it's always exciting to watch our progress and see things move and shake in the right direction. So we go through every Monday, we're going through a chapter of the TLS Health Guide and Journal. So then, you know, this thing is amazing. Dee, you know, this thing is incredible. And we're asking people to pre-read that chapter, and then we typically expound on the information, and again, it's free. So you're able to download it for free and read through. And I gotta say that chapter 10 has some very incredible information. It's also got some really great tips. But I love what we're going to cover here with Dr. D, because it's going to be just a little bit different, another perspective on stress and all of that fun stuff. So without further ado.
Well, perfect. You know, chapter 10 is what? All about managing stress. So that's what we wanted to talk to you guys here about tonight, and really kind of understand our relationship with stress and how it has found its way into our lives. So we're also going to talk a little bit tonight about identifying stressors. First off, it's common to each of us, right? So common, in fact, that we consider it normal instead of paying attention to it. It's our body's way of responding to our daily demands, but it's so different from person to person, right? Are you often late? Guilty, right? Public speaking. Yeah, right. Confrontations at work. Did you know that about 46% of people say that the number one stressor in their life is someone that they have to see at work, something that they have to overcome at work? For me, right? For you, maybe it's that one more meeting that you have to attend that makes you feel what? Late, right? Behind the scenes. So stress is meant to help us cope. Like that is its principle, like performance. It gives us that fight or flee situation. But if you leave it unattended, it wreaks havoc on your mental and your physical health. So let's think about what's normal stressor, right? We think of this as acute stress, and almost everything that someone says about stress, they often are apply in a physiology book, in a textbook, they're applying it to acute stress. But what's missing in this message is that most of us don't live in a state of acute stress, right? Which is what, lasting maybe 10 or 20 minutes. That's your mammalian brain. That's the one that thinks, oh, survival. That it's where everything goes wrong. Where everything goes wrong is when this is persistent, unrelenting stress. That is your chronic stress. Chronic stress is the exact opposite of how your brain is wired. We're wired for survival, not chronic stressors. Chronic stressors slowly chisel away your physical health, your healthy aging, your capacity to lose weight, your maintenance of muscle. And that only gets worse over time, right? But I don't want anyone to freak out because all of it is adjustable. All of it is adjustable. We can move the needle on our stress. So I told you that there was some unconscious impact and some unconscious issues related to stress, things that maybe you're not even identifying. So let's take a closer look at stress and its impact. It has emotional indicators, and this is where you feel easily agitated, you become quickly overwhelmed, you are quick to emotions, and they range from here to here. Do you know anyone that goes 0 to 60, right? Left unattended, that 0 to 60, that agitation, that irritation, leads to a sense of self-worth problem, right? Low self-esteem. We just feel like we're not nailing it anymore. And we get a little bit tied up into that. And being tied up into that, what do we end up doing? We search for reward. We search for something that gives us pleasure, because joy is missing from our lives because it's unrelenting stress. What happens over time? We may find ourselves mentally under, behind the 8 ball. We may feel ourselves cognitively behind the 8 ball. Over time, we may find ourselves focusing too much on the small stuff, right? These small things, and we assign this great worry to them, and we don't feel like we can escape them. We may have difficulty concentrating, staying alert. Somebody may say something like brain fog, this disorientation. It's right there, and I just can't seem to keep all of it together. That goes back to feeling unworthy, like that we're not doing our best. We often feel that sense of overwhelm again. Are we going to get out of this? Listen, this is a significant issue for women because much of what you're seeing right now is the racing thoughts, forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating. These are also things that we often see with female hormones, right? So wherever you are in your phase of life, there may be times during the month where this is worse for you, but now imagine not managing your stressors, not being able to write those down and appreciate those kinds of ups and downs and put perspective in that. Chronic stressors mixed with female ups and downs, right? That makes it a pretty difficult hike. It's not until stress starts to really hit us physically, and we do feel stressed physically, right? It's only then that it's easy to identify our low energy or our digestive concerns. We feel like, I just don't feel my best. I'm not doing my best physically. It's usually the physical symptom that draws someone to kind of seek out, what can I do differently? And that's because so many of us feel the emotional and the mental cognitive impact of stress as normal. We expect that from the day-to-day grind. And it's not until we start to feel things physically that we really start to pay attention, right? No matter where you identify yourself in this stress spectrum, we can move the needle, but we have to bring awareness to the situation. And that's why I often like to bring up some of the physical symptoms, why you may appreciate low energy. Did you know that being overly stressed also affects your immune system? So, like I said, you may recognize yourself in one of these stress avatars. Wherever you are on this spectrum, I want you to know that there's things that we can do. There's steps that we can take. So when we think about the function of the body, when we think about things that maybe aren't going right, does it really impact us that much? We'll just try to clarify that a little bit. It's because hormones that create stress are counter hormones, often to the ones that create health. Stress hormones are counter hormones to the ones that help you digest well, keep your brain functioning and feeling sharp, acutely aware of your surroundings, supporting your immune system. Like I said, those hormones that help regulate energy, your feeding signals, your reward signals, muscle synthesis, and mental well-being, these are countered by your stress hormones. So many of our day-to-day functions, we don't perform them in a healthy manner when we're under chronic stress, right? So let's talk, you guys, a little bit about maybe if we can move the needle, what are we going to do to move the needle? What's the first thing the three of us are going to ask you to pay attention to? Well, the first thing I'm going to ask you to pay attention to is get up, walk around. Can you move yourself away from stress? Is there something that lets you clear your head?
Yeah. Before we move on to the solutions here, I wanted to just interject here and say that, we've been addressing a lot of the factors with our Team Tone Up Challenge with our participants of what can slow down results, and we've covered, a lot of them. And I feel like this is sort of that last one that, people don't often think that stress can impact their weight, but in fact, it not only can cause us to gain weight, it can cause us to, have that inability to lose it, or for those results to come off really slow. And, that piece of the puzzle is very, very real for a lot of people when it comes to their weight loss journey.
Exactly. And we often say that not only is that you gain the weight, but you notice the weight tend to gain in that one area that we all hate, right? It's our tummy area. So that's why we often, when I was working clients, that look down, and if you find that you're losing weight in a lot of area, but this area is not going, it's a very good indicator that you have chronic stress that you've been dealing for a long time. And you might think that's normal, but unfortunately, this is what is like the last barrier, like that last hurdle that you need to go, like kind of overcome before you really hit that goal that you're looking for.
For sure. So now into solutions. The first one, you talked a little bit about getting, mobile, of course, Dee.
Yeah. I mean, taking a break from that stressor. And that's kind of that awareness that we're talking about, that appreciation, like, oh, that's what this is. I'm not supposed to try to push through this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get up, I'm going to walk around, I'm going to get some oxygen flowing, I'm going to get my muscles moving. And in doing that, philosophers always say the best work comes by walking. We can't come up with good ideas unless we're walking, unless we're moving, we're out in nature. And so I want to encourage you to find ways to get up, move around, oxygenate the body. It may start with, I just need to clear my head. I just need to walk it off. But what you'll find as you move forward is that you're able to handle some of that stressor better, because you'll find yourself inherently breathing like you did when you get up and take a walk.
Exactly.
Yes. Good.
And like Dee was saying about movement, right? So that's exercise. And I want to say, guess what? Sex is exercise as well, right? But on top of that, you can dance. There's so many movement. How many people do any form of exercise and actually done the exercise and say, I'm feeling worse? Nobody. You always feel better, right? So Go
So
for it.
true.
Yeah, nobody ever regretted a workout once it was done.
Yes.
All right.
I like that qualifier once it's done.
It's true. I mean, that's how I feel about most of my workouts. This morning was especially that way. So anyway, I am all about the fun. Fun is a big piece of the puzzle that my husband and I have. You know, we're just both really cognizant of adding this into our lives on a daily basis. You know, finding ways to make each other laugh when we're stressed out, or, you know, finding little things to do, or just making sure you have that date night, or, you know, Saturdays have been fun day. So it's not Sunday fun day, because Sunday's like planning day, right? So it's Saturday fun day. And so things that, you know, where you just create those habits so that you can have that release. You know, endorphins, right? Endorphins come from exercise, but endorphins also come from smiling and laughing. So,
You know, and the truth is that oxygen I'm talking about, you guys, that comes from a deep belly laugh, right?
Yes,
So
that's
there's
right.
so much wisdom in those things that, you know, when like, I'm just going to give you another tip. Like, if you need to de-stress, like, you know, think of a laughing baby, think of like those things that just absolutely put a smile on your face. And then I want you to try to recreate that, whether it's that big laugh that Melanie is talking about. It's, you know, it's just taking a breath. But it could be something as simple as I can't get up and walk around. And so I'm just going to imagine, you know, a baby giggling, and you will start giggling. So there's just little tricks we can use, right?
Yeah. Well, and even when we were kids, do you remember, I'm sure all of you did this in school, where they made you lay your head on another kid's stomach, and they just put all the kids around the floor, where you were laying on the floor and your head was on another kid's stomach. And then they made you laugh. And so your head's kind of like doing this, because so your kids, you're laughing, and so your head's bobbing because it's literally on somebody's tummy, and everybody, in like seconds, everybody is laughing so hard. And I just, like, you know what, if you've got a family of 5, spread out on the floor, get your head on your tummy, listen to some comedy. I don't know, just find ways to laugh. There's always something to laugh about. Did you guys ever play that game?
No, we did not. I think they only did that in Canada, Melanie.
I try it, but I would definitely try with my kids, because I can totally see them loving it.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. I can count, like, I think I probably did that 5 times growing up in school. So maybe I just had really great teachers. All right.
You know, it is important for us to recognize social support. And sometimes this is just recognizing that you are normal, that this stress is appropriate for what's, you know, going on around you, but that there's also a way to diffuse that there's a support network that allows you to say, I need a smile, I need support, I may need a belly laugh, right? We just learned ways that you can use another person's belly for just this, but it's not just knowing that you're not alone. Social support is also intimately linked to our immune function, to healthy aging. That sense of belonging really goes back to how the brain is wired to manage stress. We are very much a tribal species. We are very much a species built on community. And so knowing that you are connected to something, not just around you, but often greater than we are, can give perspective to us.
Indeed.
And meditate, right? Because when we are go, meditate is actually a way of stillness. I think sometimes for a lot of people, stillness is something that's so hard, and meditate was a form of that. And I'm sure everyone will kind of realize that when you're stressed, your breath is very short. So when you do the opposite by breathing deeply, there's actually more research is on breathing right now that I never even thought it was such a big deal. And now there's actually research, and not only that, there's actually courses to teach you how to breathe. Can you believe it? Like, breath is something that we all have, but we actually don't breathe correctly. So everyone, start actually for the rest of today's session, put your hand on your belly and see if it's protruding out. If it's not protruding out, that means you are not doing diaphragm breathing, and that means you're not doing deep breathing. And you'd be surprised how calm you feel right after. So there's something magical about that. So this is something that I, like myself, whenever I feel stressed, the first thing I do is close my eye and do a deep breathing, and I find myself like literally instantly relaxed, a lot easier, or else it's so tense up. So something as simple as that, if you really don't even have time to even go out for a walk or take that walk, breathe, simply breathe deeply, basically.
I'm glad, Suzanne, that you brought this one up, because even just a hand on a belly is an intentional movement. Even if you're not going to, as you said, get up from the desk or get up from the stressor, just that physical hand on the belly can, from a secondary standpoint, get the belly to pay attention and start to initiate that diaphragmatic breathing. Yeah. But can be also very comforting. And I love how this keeps coming back to what Melanie was talking about with the belly laughs, is that there is so much centering that happens right here at the belly. And so be aware of that. Take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a big one. So, learning to say no, or just having those healthy boundaries in place where, whether it's healthy boundaries at work or healthy boundaries within your family, or, healthy boundaries. I was actually chatting with someone who's on their TLS journey, and, she's like, God and I are tight, and I decided that sugar's from the devil. So, that's it. No more sugar. And it was just like, it was a healthy, I just chalked it up as that's an awesome, healthy boundary right there. Like, I love that. I love that way of like, it's like, hey, I'm tight with God, and I have no more sugar, and whatever you got to do. But these are all ways to create healthy boundaries. If you're always saying yes to everything and everyone who's asking for something, you tend to end up on the bottom of the priority list. And that's what usually gets people in a situation where they find themselves looking in the mirror one day and going, what happened? How did I get to this point? And enough is enough. And a lot of times that happens because we're saying yes to everyone and everything else and not to ourselves. So putting yourself on the priority list, saying yes to yourself first, and being very careful about what you agree to, so that you are taking care of yourself, you're taking care of that immediate family, and as we go out in our circles and our community, et cetera. But it all starts with ourselves, for sure.
Absolutely. Taking time for relaxation is something, just like people say they don't have time for fitness, or they don't have time for meal prepping, or those sorts of things. We often find, as Melanie was just talking about, when it comes to priorities and setting ourselves first, we will often not give time to ourselves. And this kind of lends back to something that Suzanne was saying about healthy breathing and taking time for meditation. That does not mean that we need to have an entire practice, around meditation, but rather, 3 deep breaths in and out. You'd be surprised at how much benefit can come from as little as 1 minute, but even just spending 3 minutes on something can be beneficial. So when we say that we don't have time, and there's a stronger play here that I want to also encourage you to do. But if time is that thing that you don't feel like you have a lot of, I want you to recognize that even just taking a little break, where you do what Melanie just said, is that you say yes to yourself, does end up growing into a space of time that you will create for yourself. But then I also want you to think about how you are kind of measuring your week. It's possible within your week to identify places where you are going to spend time for yourself. And sometimes these will overlap. It is possible for you to spend 30 good minutes each morning, or that which works for your schedule, for fitness. And so two things that you didn't think you had time for, yourself and fitness, you can actually work in, and you'd be surprised if you do the math at how little time you need for yourself to do that. Now, I will share with you that two of the biggest reasons why people say that they're unable to do this for themselves is that they say that they need more time to sleep. And I'll say, just get up earlier. And they'll say, oh, there's no way I can do that, right? And I say, if you go to bed earlier, you can do that. So sometimes it's also not just taking time for relaxation, but identifying those things that you don't need, much like this woman talked about with the sugar, right? Sometimes our why needs to be bigger than our excuse for this. It can start little. You'd be surprised at how much time you'll find for yourself.
Yeah, I have an app on my phone that has a 29-minute, it sort of starts as guided and then it just goes into music. And it is such a great relaxer. And I end up totally recharged after. And I do that probably now 3 or 4 times a week, on those sort of crazy weeks where things are really, really hectic and I'm feeling a little like I'm burning on both ends. And it has helped me have a far more productive day. So I think there's always ways and times to fit this in.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And go ahead, Suzanne.
And also because a lot of people often say when they don't have time and when they don't get good sleep, it's a vicious cycle. They get tired and before you know it, they get more stressed, but they don't have the time. It's again, it starts with one place, right? When we want to break that vicious cycle, it has to start somewhere, and taking time for relaxation is a great place to start. But to talk about water, right? Water is so important in so many different ways, but just let's talk about even from the, like, not only water help to obviously manage our cortisol level, but water actually help to manage a healthy blood sugar level as well. It is so important. Water also helps to increase your energy. How many people feel tired? And the reason is they dehydrated. And when you're feeling tired, and if you're stressed already and you're tired, think about that combination. It's not a great combination. And you might end up maybe work on a project and taking a lot longer because you cannot concentrate, yes. Right? So think about that, takes away even more time and you're already tight for time. So a lot of time it start with one and you'd be surprised how kind of everything kind of falls in place, right? People often say, really? Is it really that simple? Yes, because one falls lead to that vicious cycle, but one stop can also change the whole tone of the whole thing, right? So drinking waters can, like, aside from breathing, drink water. Start drinking water and see what happens. You'll be quite surprised that suddenly you have that burst of energy and you can concentrate and get work done, and suddenly you have that extra time to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Nutritious foods. I think, we've been talking about that for the last 10 weeks. Is all about our eating. And, we're all about the nutritious foods, vegetables being on the top of that list, of course, but, really hitting all those macros, those healthy fats, those healthy lean proteins, our vegetables, our fruits, and just really getting in those quality foods. And we're gonna really, really help the stress response.
And there are benefits for individuals to use what are called stress adaptogens, other essential nutrients. And this is, where Melanie and Suzanne talk about the benefits of diet, right? What are you actually getting from that? You're building blocks of energy. You're building blocks for healthy hormones. Those, that energy potential doesn't just come from hydration and from breath work or from oxygen. It literally comes from the healthy nutrients that you would be getting through diet, and we can add in through supplementation. So we're going to talk a little bit about some specific types of foods that we can eat and botanicals or supplements that can help us achieve those energy, weight loss, and stress goals that all of us have.
Absolutely. So one of the things we want to avoid, especially if stress is a factor in our lives, but truly, we want to avoid these because they actually can induce stress in the body and just have us experience more stress is refined sugar. So these are all our candies and our cakes and our muffins and our, really our flour. A lot of baked goods have a lot of refined sugar in them, and those types of things. Table salt, processed foods. So that's, your cans, your bags, your plastic bags, your Tetra Packs, basically the middle of the grocery store, right? Junk food, alcohol and coffee. I know that, Suzanne, you brought up the vicious cycle. And I think a lot of people get into the coffee vicious cycle where they're like, I don't have energy, so I drink more coffee. And then, but then you're crashing. And then, instead of going for water, for breath, for relaxation, we're just going for another coffee, and we're just creating more stress in the body rather than, naturally producing that energy through the cells.
Yep. Well, since we have food that induces stress, we do have food that reduces stress. And the great thing is when we are looking at these food from dark green leafy vegetable or vegetable itself, avocado, berries, tomato, nuts, and plant protein, guess what all these foods are? If you follow us, the TL's menu plan, these are exactly the food that we encourage you to eat. So as you're eating to lose those excess weight or excess fat, you are actually reducing stress at the same time. Isn't that great? Like you can actually kind of kill many birds with one stone by just simply eating wholesome, unprocessed food, basically.
Without exception. We talked a bit about what you get from foods, the necessary nutrients, the building blocks for these neurotransmitters, for your hormones, literally for muscle. That kind of gives your body the home court advantage when it comes to weight loss. And stress is very much impacted by kind of restoring nutrients, in particular minerals, to the body. So my favorite topic in food and stress and supplementation, that principal target, is to go to the source. Where do stress hormones get created? And what ultimately creates your counter hormones? Well, that comes from vitamins and minerals in your diet, getting an adequate amount through diet. So we're going to choose our food based on color, but we're also going to think about a combination with our diet of supplementation. So this is where things like magnesium, vitamin C, a complex of B vitamins come in. These are the building blocks for neurotransmitters. So your serotonin, which is a feel-good neurotransmitter, your dopamine, which is an ambition neurotransmitter, but also one that stimulates the reward center in the brain. So you're not actually looking for other things like sugar to stimulate reward in the brain. When we think about kind of taking that calm, we want to create something in the body and in the brain called GABA. And to do that, we need magnesium and B6. We need amino acids. We need a healthy diet, but it's possible with vitamins and minerals to push many of our macronutrients in a direction that helps us create a balance of energy, like Suzanne said. Creating glycemic health, sensitivity to hormones that help us not just lose weight, but counter our response to stressful situation. So going to the source is really important. Magnesium, vitamin C, a complex of B vitamins. They can help us with a feeling of calm simply through supplementation. Now, some of that comes from how quickly will I kind of notice the results of supplementation. That's one of the reasons why magnesium and a complex of B vitamins in particular are so powerful. But other things that can make achieving kind of that healthy stress environment, that calm environment, creating these neurotransmitters, is also having supplementation that you can gain access to. So I just want to take a minute, if you'll allow me some flexibility, to talk about isotonics. At its core, isotonic supplementation was created for efficiency of nutrients, that delivery of nutrients to the intestines where nutrients are absorbed. Now, there's a key factor of isotonics in that nutrients are delivered to the small intestine where, as I said, most nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream. But in this case, in an isotonic form, they're delivered intact and concentrated. This is done by creating an isotonic solution that, when taken on an empty stomach, can trigger the release of the nutrients effectively and efficiently into the small intestine from the stomach. That efficient delivery means nutrients were not exposed to stomach acid for a huge length of time, a prolonged time. And that's what keeps them intact and concentrated. Isotonics don't have any fillers or binders that you find in a lot of over-the-counter products or supplements. Because they're in a powder form, they're easily blendable with each other. We often think of this as customizable. So building a regimen for you by design, perhaps that's activated B complex more than once during the day. Your magnesium to start the morning, but also making sure that you're ending the day with it. This is part of the principle that built the isotonic essentials, kind of that base 80% foundation with things like a calcium plus, a multivitamin, a B vitamin, and a really powerful antioxidant called OPC3, which is a mixture of several antioxidants to support health, including, weight and wellness. That is the foundation. That is what's critical for all of us, is that we meet our metabolic needs, not just with fruits and vegetables, making sure that we have fiber and protein at every meal, but that we understand the power behind concentrated nutrients delivered in a way that we can avoid many of the things that we don't want in supplementation, like fillers and binders, but also design it for our life. Now, it's true that we think about adaptogenic botanicals, not just adaptogenic nutrients. And that's really what you're looking at here, right? With that vitamin C and magnesium and B vitamins, even OPC to a certain extent when we think about healthy aging, right? That is the foundation, and that is critical. Melanie, I appreciate that, because we will talk about these adaptogens now. Once we've done this foundation, we want to move into adaptogenic support. So, yeah, go ahead.
I gotta say, I have been taking the isotonic, I always do the daily essentials in the morning, but I've been taking isotonics for probably close to 16 years now. And I don't think that I would ever start a day without them. I haven't, I can't remember the last day I ever started my day without it. And I think all three of us are probably in well over the decade mark of taking these, products for me. Yeah. And there's just so much that can be gained from this kind of delivery system versus what's out there. And I know that, doctors like yourself, Dee, used to do things like IV therapy for vitamins, which is really, really an incredible way to deliver vitamins, but it also is very, very expensive. And so this is the, essentially I always say this is the next best thing. This is as close as you're going to get to something like that, using the same kind of science, essentially, No,
I really appreciate you saying that, because, when we do micronutrient infusions or IV therapy, we're using a very similar principle where we're using a carbohydrate base or a saline base, but it's mixed with micronutrients like vitamin C, independent of magnesium, independent of, and what I mean by that when I say independent is that we're able with a patient to be able to create an intravenous cocktail for them, recognizing that their magnesium, B vitamin, their B vitamins, their vitamin C, that we're able to manipulate those in a customized formula for them. And this, for many people, may feel like this is such a novel way to introduce supplementation. And it's novel in the sense that it's not common. You don't see this a lot in over-the-counter or intergalactic vitamin world type vitamins. And part of that is because of the extra level of care that is required to make an isotonic formula, something that the body can recognize and move from the stomach and into the small intestine so easily. But the concept is actually more common than I think a lot of people recognize. And, your rehydration drinks from an athletic standpoint, those are examples of an isotonic solution. These are built in a way and formulated in a way to make sure that nutrients easily transport into the bloodstream, carried on that same kind of carbohydrate base that an IV solution would. So they're like in kind, they're not identical to each other, but I love that, Melanie, that you said, it's as close as you're going to get, because it mimics that exact same principle of fluid absorption and nutrient movement through a lumen or through the stomach into the bloodstream.
Yeah, and so it makes it really great for people who, are just don't do well with pills. And it's quite delicious is the other thing I love about it.
Yeah, compliance or adherence is really high with isotonics. I think part of it, Melanie, as you mentioned, is because you find yourself creating that very healthy habit. It's not this thing that you dread. I'm going to have to, I got to take my supplements today. It starts to become part of that morning ritual, that those morning healthy choices that we make for ourselves. And I don't want it to be lost on anyone. That's a form of self-care, you guys. So if your self-care starts with isotonics, you're nailing it, right? You are off. You're starting your morning on the front foot, not your back foot. So
yeah,
I love it.
Definitely.
Now, we did talk about taking things up a notch, and we've built that foundation, but there are botanicals that we think of as adaptogens. And adaptogens, like nutrients, amino acids, fatty acids, they have a mechanism in the body. Now, some people may call it a dual mechanism. They can help you with your energy goals, but also kind of keep you calm. I like to refer to that as an alert calm, right? And you mentioned caffeine, Melanie, that some people will get into that cycle where they'll just say, I need that bump, that energy, that thing that's going to push me over this hump, only to find themselves kind of feeling lower in energy than they did when they started that, because of that vicious cycle. For everything that goes up, something else has to come down. For every gimme, there's a gotcha, right? Well, it's the exact opposite with adaptogens. They have this dualistic kind of approach where they can give us that alert calm, where we are aware, alert, clear, but we don't feel overwhelmed. We don't feel overly stressed, right? We don't feel like we've got our foot on the gas. The way they do this is that they have compounds in them that create like that counter to the stress. We talked about counter hormones, that when cortisol is up, we end up seeing elevations in glucose, storage of energy as fat. And that stress is one of the things that creates that. Adaptogenic botanicals make sure not to push our metabolism out of bounds, but help us adapt physiologically to those stressors around us. So TLS Acts is a great example of a product that doesn't create that kind of push you out of bounds like caffeine might for that energy, or that something stronger might when it comes to relaxation. It's built off of adaptogens that help assist the body in its response to the stress hormone that Suzanne had mentioned, which is cortisol. Now, TLS-X, the name says it all. It stands for adrenal, cortisol, thyroid, and stress, right? This formula uses several types of adaptogens to help the body assist or adapt to that stress and have that alert calm. Cortisol, quite frankly, gets a bad rap. It's that part of helping us with acute stressors, supporting ourselves during an acute issue or stressor, even injury. It's just the fact that with our day-to-day grind, it has become a chronic, low but persistent stressor hormone in the body. So that's why we think of adaptogenic botanicals that can help us maintain healthy neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. The ACT formula has botanicals that help us support our connection to our brain, our thyroid, our adrenal glands. And again, like I said, your adrenal glands are where those stress hormones are created in the first place. So we built a healthy foundation with the vitamins and minerals. But now what we're doing is creating an environment of that alert calm for the body, because we know that you've got to bob and weave throughout the day, but you've got health goals, not just weight goals. And so the botanicals that are in the ACT formula were put in there to help you address many of those things, right? That normal thyroid function, whether that's due to increased weight over time, whether that's due to age or female gender, helps us reduce stress placed on the adrenal glands. And these are botanicals that have compounds that can help us with that ideal or normal functioning. And ultimately, from a stress response, we built a formula that helps connect the brain to the thyroid, to the gut, to the gonads, to the adrenal glands. We kind of built that entire stress axis, and to make sure that our hormones, our organs that are responsible for a stress hormone response or stress response, are as alert, if I can use that word again, as they need to be. So let's take a closer look at some of the ingredients. Adaptogen, and we use a trademarked ingredient called Sensorial Ashwagandha. This is an adaptogen, a superhero adaptogen by my measure, called ashwagandha. Its active compounds, called ltheanine, and that's not important, are beneficial in our stress response, as well as our thyroid response, as well as energy or endurance response. So when we really try to get to the crux of what would we want to put in an anti-stress support formula, we're thinking that we want something that's going to help us with our energy, our endurance, our mental clarity, but also support those organs that may be depleted by a stress environment. And that's why we chose that Sensorial Ashwagandha. Now, there's ingredients like holy basil that are profoundly beneficial for creating calm in the body, interchanging with cortisol, that stress hormone, so that we have a healthy response to that stress hormone, not a weight storage response to that stress hormone, but that our body physiologically is aware of that. But it doesn't stop there. L-theanine is one of my favorite amino acids. It's the reason why herbal teas are calming. It's the reason why we think of that. It's kind of a spa day for ourselves, because apigenin and amino acids that are found in tea, like L-theanine, are very beneficial. And I'm going to give you a pro tip here when it comes to caffeine. L-theanine is very beneficial when it comes to creating that GABA, creating that calm, but still feeling aware, not feeling obtunded. But if you're someone that does drink coffee, you should know that one of the best countermeasures for caffeine in someone is, in fact, the amino acid L-theanine. So I mentioned for every gimme, there's a gotcha. In this case, we've got this superhero that can come in and help us. With both age and weight, our thyroid can feel the impact of that. And so having iodine in a microgram dose, about 150 micrograms in this formula, can create some of the building blocks that the thyroid needs, very similar to what we described with vitamins and minerals and the adrenal glands needing building blocks for their neurotransmitters. Well, your thyroid is crucial to a healthy metabolism. And one of its building blocks, one of its enzyme-driven building blocks, is iodine. Looking further at the ingredients. Passionflower has been known in nervine medicine, botanical medicine, herbalism for centuries to create calm, to relax the body. Passionflower is often found in gut health formulas. It's often found in sleep health formulas, and of course, anti-stress formulas. Now, in addition to carrying extra weight or feeling like our energy is not where it needs to be, the next most common concern that people have when it comes to a stress response is that they feel like their concentration, their memory is failing them. And that's why we put Bacopa Moneri in this product. We know that memory and age tend to go together. Concerns with memory and age tend to go together, but we see that accelerated in people that carry extra weight or find themselves consuming extra sugars or problematic foods that may lead to extra weight and kind of, again, that persistent insult to the body. Rhodiola, you see that there as we're getting to the bottom of this slide, helps directly with our weight because it plays a big role in glucose and cortisol relationship with each other. And then we have things like erythra root. Now, erythra root is this adaptogen that kind of gives the body its oomph, its power, its endurance. And so when we need to power through a day, especially a stressful day, when we need to bob and weave, we want a combination of botanicals just like this with an adaptogen superhero like ashwagandha that helps us from so many areas in the body, but have the supporting cast of things like the L-theanine amino acid, the rhodiola, the bacopa for memory. We want to have a powerful product for us that's hitting multiple targets in the body. And that was the idea behind the product, right? Was to create a multifunctional stress response formula to help you with your thyroid, your adrenal, your cortisol, right? Your stress response.
Yeah, and I love that we've gotten all these comments here. Nadine says, I wouldn't go a day without my TLS Axe. Donna said the exact same thing. I know that, depending on what's going on in my life, I've been on and off Axe through the years, but I absolutely love it. I know, Suzanne, you do too.
I love Axe, and it makes such a difference. I think a lot of people, like you were saying, they might not even know that they have stress because you live with it for so long. It's so familiar.
Exactly.
So when people said, I really don't need it because that's my life. But people are so surprised that once they start taking TLS Act, how different they feel. And that was a very good indication to let you know that you've been stressed for so long. Like you've almost been like suppressed for so long in a sense that your body just don't respond because you kind of numb those feelings. And I think it's important that once you start taking the right supplement support you realize, oh, this is how I should be feeling. This is the type of energy I should have, that natural energy, not the artificial energy that kind of give you the but you fall really fast. Right. And that's what we don't want. And that's why I love it. Melanie and I talk about it all the time. I cannot imagine a day without Axe. It really makes a huge difference, especially nowadays. How many of us are not stressed? I don't know many people are not stressed. It's just a matter of how stressed you are, basically.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about Axe too, is I feel like, there's sort of two types of people. Yeah. There are people who kind of go this way with stress, right? They're like, yep. Woo, right? Anxiety and like, oh, what am I gonna do? Here's the to-do list and what's next. And all right, let's get the kids in the van and like, and they're just constant, like go kind of anxious energy. And then there are people who do the exact opposite, where it's just like peace out. Later. Like I'm out of here, and I'm feeling down. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling sad, just not engaged.
Engaged is the exact word I was thinking. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I love about Axe is, like, no matter where you end up on that teeter-totter, you're going to find yourself here.
Yeah. Back to balance.
And I think I, oddly enough, have had both experiences in regards to how I feel when I'm really stressed out. And I love that feeling of just just that, just really calming the body and balancing. I think that's why they call it adaptogenic herbs, because it doesn't really matter, again, where you find yourself on that teeter-totter. It helps your body adapt.
Exactly.
And that is such a gift. I love this product so much. And it really is the Mac Daddy of stress support, as far as formulas go, as far as concentration goes, as far as amounts and what's in there. I mean, it is truly the Mac Daddy of stress support formulas, for sure, in all of our lines.
Yes.
You'll see ashwagandha in other products, but that sensorial ashwagandha really means something, because there are clinical studies, human clinical studies behind the use of the sensorial ashwagandha. And they specifically looked at, individuals that found themselves, as you described yourself, Melanie, earlier, burning your candle at both ends. They specifically looked at the stress and immune response in athletes, because they've pushed their body physically, because they wanted an answer to this ashwagandha's impact on individuals that have physically pushed their body, right? So we could kind of create what an overly stressed body physically may look like by looking at studies in athletes. And I had mentioned that women will often find a hard time losing weight, maintaining, a healthy cognitive function, just that sense of overall well-being. Part of that's because they may be pushed by a number of different roles that they have in life. And that's true for men as well, as we try to wear many different hats. But they also looked at sensorial ashwagandha, not just ashwagandha, but sensorial ashwagandha in hormone fluctuations in women, so that we could really appreciate its role in different decades of life. And so there's a lot of clinical study behind the sensorial ingredient versus looking for an ashwagandha. Part of that with that potency that you mentioned, Melanie.
Yeah, it's definitely the most potent ashwagandha. So we're lucky to have this incredible product in our line. It is so unique and so special. And for those of you who are feeling like, wow, this might be that missing link, that I need to just unlock my true weight loss potential here. If you have not given it a try, it's pretty phenomenal. So we love this product. And I know, Dee, one of the things I didn't mention when you came on board was, Dr. Deidre Mason heads up the health professional version of TLS, which is called TLS Select, where doctors and health professionals utilize this within their practices with their patients. So, we use the same products, and, it's all TLS. So we're just really blessed to have had you on here tonight, Dr. Deidre.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time so late at night. And it's just wonderful. I think everybody loved what we learned here today. And any last words?
I mean, it's always a pleasure for me to do this. So I just want to say thank you again to Melanie and Suzanne, not just for what you've created in TLS, making it so relevant to, as you mentioned, to physicians and finding success with their practices and their patients, but really making this so accessible and quite easy to follow for an individual that says, listen, I'm going to give this weight loss thing a try again, right? And this time I'm going to be successful. And you guys keep building that, those weeks for them that allow them to do just that. So thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Suzanne, any last words?
Last word is never give up, because we always say that we're the solution provider, but you need to first be aware that there is that it's not always your fault when you're not moving, when you're not progressing. There's that missing factor. And in TLS, we have different products to really address different struggles. Today we happen to talk about stress. And if this is really like Melanie, this is the missing piece, that's exactly the missing piece to help you propel forward. So just don't give up. You're so close, just so close. Okay.
Yes, we're coming up at the start of our week 10. The best is yet to come. A lot of people experience kind of slowdown between weeks 7 and 10, where they're just, they just see a slowdown in results. Yeah. And if you stay focused and stay the course, as our incredible founder, mentor, vice president always said, you'll see the best results come, in these next few weeks. And obviously we're a lifestyle. So this is not something that ends at week 12 or your start. Yeah. This is the beginning of your new TLS lifestyle. We're so excited for you guys. So we'll see you on the Facebook page. We'll see you next Monday. We have a very special guest on as well. She's one of our record-breaking health professionals. Yeah. She uses TLS and TLS Select in her practice. You know her and you love her if you've heard her before, Julie Lynn Seidel. So we're very excited. So thank you for joining us tonight. Sharing is caring, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Night.
Good night.